sometimes we're making these decisions and we don't know what we're actually asking. We don't know the problem we're actually solving. And for me, when I was making that big decision I was sharing earlier, it was like, I'm going to have to spend less time with my kids, less time at home. I'm going to have to really push in my business and in the community. There's going to be a lot of sacrifice that's going to come with this yes to this decision. Am I willing to say yes to this decision? Hey guys, welcome back to the Become Great podcast. I'm your host, Ahab Al-Hindi, and I'm talking through something today that is, it's my decision-making protocol. So this is kind of how I make big decisions, how I make decisions in my business, how I make decisions for my family. And it's not complicated, but things in life that are great are usually simple that are executed really well. And so I'm not trying to do something amazing here. I'm not trying to reinvent the wheel, but I am trying to give you a step-by-step guide of when you're coming up with a big decision in your life, or even some problems that come up in your life, what should you do to make those things seem easier, simpler, and handle them quickly? I have problems thrown on my plate multiple times a day. I tell my people in my business all the time, a firefighter is never surprised when they go to work and they discover they have to put out a fire. They're not. It's their job. And I tell my leaders, I'm like, as leaders, we're firefighters. This is what we do. We put out fires. Like we constantly have fires that are coming across our plate, and we have to put them out. And we should not be surprised that a fire is happening because we're firefighters. It's what we do. And so I want to encourage you, there's some simple things that you can do to make your decision-making process so much easier. And you can have a protocol of how to do it. I remember someone was asking me, because I was making a really big decision about a month or two ago. And they're like, hey, what are you doing to make this decision? And I said, the first thing I did is I went through my decision journal. And they're like, you have a decision journal? I'm like, yeah, I have a journal of all the big decisions, what I did, and how I made the decision I ended up making. And was it good? Was it bad? And then I kind of just sifted through, and I was like, okay, here's, and I created a protocol from my decision journal on like, hey, these are the things that have consistently worked. So I'm going to walk you through those if that's good with you. So the first thing I want to do, and this is whether my wife texts me that there's a problem with one of our kids, or if there's a problem at work, or if I'm making a big decision, I want to gather all the facts. What is actually happening? What are the positives? What are the negatives? What do we do now? Like, okay, what is happening? And so if there's a problem at work and I'm hearing about a team member that say that this team member is having issues with other team members, and there's, the rumor mill is something off with this person, right? Then I want to go and I want to gather information. I'm going to go, okay, what is happening with their direct supervisor? What's happening over here? What are people saying about this person? Is it isolated to a clique or a group that maybe doesn't want this person to be here and they're trying to influence the decision making? Or is it a broad thing that's happening throughout everywhere that this person goes? One of the things I like to say is you want to follow the anxiety as a leader. You want to follow the anxiety. Like if someone is in your business and they're creating anxiety everywhere they go, it's them. So you want to look for okay, where's the anxiety in my business? Where's the anxiety coming from at home? Where's the anxiety coming from in my finances? Where's the anxiety coming from in my emotions, right? You follow the anxiety, you'll find the problem. Once you gather the facts, you look at all the information, then you have to actually find out what is the problem. So often I find leaders, parents, teachers, business owners, they're coming up with solutions for symptoms and not the illness. We do this all the time. It's like throwing NyQuil at a fever. What are you doing? You're covering up the problem. You're actually not solving the problem. You catch what I'm saying, right? So if I take NyQuil, my son the other night he wasn't feeling super good, and he's like, Dad, I got a fever. I'm not feeling good. And so I was like, well, I want my son to sleep so he can sleep through the night because sleep is going to help him get better. So I gave him a little bit of NyQuil and he was able to sleep, felt a little bit better the next day. Next day, no sugar, lay in bed, lots of fluids. What am I doing? I'm actually solving the problem. The NyQuil was to help him cover up the symptoms, but it wasn't going to solve the problem. The problem is only going to get solved through rest, hydration, all those things that he needed to do to take care of himself. But I want to actually find out what is the problem. So often we're looking at our problems and we grab the symptoms and we start creating standard operating procedures around symptoms rather than problems. Like for me, I was coming up with this big decision was coming across my plate, right? It was bigger. It was going to affect my family. It was going to affect my business. There's a lot of factors involved. And I felt a lot of fear. And I was like, oh man, I'm actually afraid to do this. I don't want to do it. And my initial response is, not going to do it. I'm totally scared of this decision. And that was knee-jerk reaction, right? And I also have this belief that if fear doesn't want me to do something, why? Why is fear trying to make me not do something? Is my destiny on the other side of that? Is my calling on the other side of that? Because fear is not the voice of God. I've discovered that over the years. And I know that fear also is not someone I want to partner with. It's not a voice in my life that I like to give a lot of agreement to. Now, I don't want to be fearless. The fearless is a little bit kooky, right? A fearless leader is a reckless leader, right? I want to have fear, but I want to do it afraid. Because fear is it's something that God put inside me to warn me of incoming danger, right? If a car is barreling down on me, I want to feel fear. Why? Because I want to jump out of the way. I got to get out of the way. And so if fear is actually normal, but there's a type of fear that steps in that tries to control our decisions. I don't want to make decisions based on fear. I made a decision, I want to say 15 years ago, that I will not make decisions based on fear. It's just what I want to do is I want to eliminate fear from my decision-making protocols and make sure it's not in the list of things that is making my decisions. I want the facts to be there. I want to know what the problem is. And I don't want to go, oh, I made an emotional decision. That's not for me. Some of you are like, I'm a rational thinker. That totally makes sense to me. Some of you are like, nope. No, I'm an emotional person. My emotions drive me. And I would challenge you. I would challenge you to maybe try to push past and allow your emotions to be tools in your life, but not leaders in your life. Now, I love my emotions. My emotions are a great part of the way I live my life. I love being a demonstrative person. I love being emotional. I love giving hugs and being joyful. I love all of that. But I don't want my emotions being the reasons I'm making big decisions in my life. Because sometimes I get really excited. I don't know about you. My wife knows this about me. But I get excited about stuff and I'm like, man, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. You know, I just get really pumped up and I just start like moving in that direction. And my wife's like, can you hold off for a month? A month? No, I got to do this right now while the iron is hot. And she's like, just give it a month. Maybe just a month. And in a month, I'm not as excited about it. The emotion is removed, right? And then I can see it rationally. And I'm like, oh man, I'm really glad I didn't do that. But we bought horses recently. And oh man, my wife loves horses. I mean, loves horses. And we bought horses and we thought that these guys were going to be so amazing. We're going to ride horses on our property. We're going to go on trail rides. It's going to be so great. And we're like, we built this fantasy in our minds of what horse ownership was going to look like. And we couldn't see the reality, even though people were telling us, hey, this is what's going to happen. And this was it. It's going to cost like this and that and all this. We couldn't hear any of it because the fantasy of owning horses was so beautiful. And then they arrive. And they're a lot. I mean, a lot. And they don't want us to ride them. They're like, nah, no, I'm good. The fantasy is crushed. And we made this decision because we got really excited. We thought it was going to be amazing. We couldn't hear the outside voices. We're like, we're going to do this. This is going to be amazing. Our kids are going to grow up horse people. It's going to be so awesome. The horses don't even want us to ride them. I'm like, oh, I wish I knew now. I wish I knew then what I know now, because my decision around horse purchasing would be so much different. And I know this, my decision around horse purchasing in a year from now is going to be so different. 2 years from now, 3 years from now. Because the older I get, the more experience I have, the wiser I should be becoming, right? And so, one, let's gather all the facts. In the horse case, we were getting facts, but our emotions got in the way. We saw it's like one of my team members wants to buy a muscle car. I'm like, bro, you're 22 years old. You don't need a muscle car. But I just want to get this. I want to get this Dodge Charger, man, or the Hemi. Oh, it's going to be awesome. And I'm like, Jose, you really don't want that. But here's why. So I actually ended up going and said, let's gather the facts. How much money do you make? We started writing all that, what he makes. All right, give me all of your expenses. He wrote down all of the expenses. Now tell me some of your goals in life. Where do you want to be in 5 years? Where do you want to be in 10 years? Where do you want to be in 20 years? And how much money do you think you're going to need at that time? And he goes, in 5 years, I like to buy a house, and my girlfriend and I, married and start having family. And I'm like, okay, that's awesome. And what we discovered when we looked at all his money is he had a $1,500 gap. $1,500. He was making $1,500 more than he was spending, so he could afford the car. And then I asked him a question. I said, well, you have this $1,500. Where is it? You've been working for me for a year, 2 years. Where's the $1,500 a month? It's like, I don't know. I said, well, how much do you have in savings? I don't have any in savings. I'm like, okay, we should probably find out where your money's going before we decide to make this decision. And he found out where his money was going, and he was eating out all the time, and he was going to Chipotle and all these places, and he was getting all the, and his money was going out, and he didn't have anything to show for it. And I said, hey, let's do this. You want to buy a house in 5 years? He's like, yeah. I was like, what if I told you can save maybe $12,000 a year? And he's like, I could. I'm like, yeah. You have $1,500 of income that you're not using. We can put $1,000 away into a high yield savings account, and every year you'll save $12,000 by putting $1,000 away. He's like, yeah. And now Jose's doing so good. He's been saving his money. He went on a holiday, paid cash for the holiday, and he's doing all this. But now he's going back to Ahab. I want to buy a muscle car. And I'm like, remember your vision. Remember the vision. You want to buy a house. You want that lifestyle for you and your future wife, right? And he's like, oh yeah, I know it's a stupid decision, but it's always going to be in my heart. And I'm like, that's fine. But that's when you have X amount of income. Like, this is what when you make this kind of money, you can go pay for that cash. You just get whatever muscle car you want. So we gathered the facts. We said, what is the problem? He had extra money. He just didn't know where it was going. But then we connected it to where he wanted to be, where he wanted to go, the vision, the real problem, not the problem that was facing us in the beginning. The real problem was he had a goal he did not know how to achieve. And I helped him get on the track to actually achieve his goal, putting money away and buying a house. We went from having a problem to having a dream. And that was amazing. And now we had to go through, so we gather the facts. What's the problem? We're not allowing fear to make our decisions. We're leaving our emotions out of it. One of the other things we got to leave out of it is, what are other people going to think? What's dad going to think? What's my mom going to think? What are people going to say about me? We have to remove embarrassment from the decision. We have to remove all these other emotions because we don't want to make decisions based on what other people think. We want to base them on the facts and some of our dreams and goals and visions. Now, once all of this is figured out, we want to do a risk assessment, right? Like, what if I say yes to this decision? What am I saying no to? And am I okay with that? So in Jose's case, he took a month to go, can I put $1,000 away a month and be okay with not spending money, eating out and doing all this other stuff? It was a hard decision for him, but he decided to do it. And he's eating the fruit of that decision today. But he had to look at his life and go, I have to say no to eating out here. I have to say no to this. I have to say no to that. I have to say no to my dream car. I have to say no to a lot of things in order to say yes to this dream of mine. And so he went from like solving a problem to having a dream. I just want to keep reiterating that because it's so important, because sometimes we're making these decisions and we don't know what we're actually asking. We don't know the problem we're actually solving. And so I want us to go through like, okay, am I comfortable saying no to all these things to say yes to this decision? And for me, when I was making that big decision I was sharing earlier, it was like, I'm going to have to spend less time with my kids, less time at home. I'm going to have to really push in my business and in the community. There's going to be a lot of sacrifice that's going to come with this yes to this decision. Am I willing to say yes to this decision, knowing I'm going to sacrifice in all these areas? And I had to come up with a reasonable go, yes, I'm willing to sacrifice for a season. I can't sacrifice forever, but I can sacrifice for a season. And so the next thing I want to do, so I'm gathering the facts, discovering the problems, taking fear and emotions out of the decision making. I've assessed the risk. Am I willing to do it? Am I not willing to do it? And then I'm seeking wise counsel. There are people who have more life experience. They may be your same age as you, but they may have more life experience than you. They may be older than you. And you want to go to these people. Listen, if that means DMing someone like me, then DM me. If that means like finding a pastor or a leader or someone in your life, maybe you don't have somebody, maybe you follow somebody on Instagram and you value their opinion or you think they're really wise, you reach out to them. Find somebody to get wise counsel from. One of the places that I love having mentors. Mentors they're key to my life. I don't think I would be living in the success that I currently live in if I did not have mentors in my life. And I want to encourage you, if you do not currently have a mentor in your life, find one. I think we need multiple mentors, but if you don't have any, find one. If your dad's your hero, make him your mentor. If your uncle's your hero, make him your mentor. If it's your aunt or teacher, somebody, if there's a professor in school, somebody, if it's a boss at work, make them your mentor. Intentionally engage them for the purpose of your own growth. Bring problems to them. When you sit across with a mentor or a leader in your life, here's what you should do. You always show up prepared with 5 questions. Always. It's so important. As a leader, when I show up and I sit down and someone comes to me and they're like, hey, I just want to get to know you more. That's a lot for me because my days are really packed and they're really full. And if I say yes to meeting with you, I want to add value to your life. Connection's great. And I want to connect with my people and my leaders, but my goal is to raise up and develop leaders. That's my mission statement, right? And so if I'm connecting with you, I want to add value to your life. So come prepared. Hyro's behind the camera right now. He reached out to me on Instagram and we started connecting on there. We met in person. He showed up with great questions that ended up connecting us heart to heart He started volunteering. We started working together on the podcast. We started working. I hired him in my business, and he's been a gift to me and in my life. And my heart is to add value to him. His heart is to add value to me. We have a great relationship, and now I'm a mentor in his life because he's allowed me to, because he sought me out. And I'm not telling you to reach out to me, and I don't have the capacity to mentor 1,000 people. But what I do have the capacity to do is either lead you to someone or to encourage you to find somebody, right? And now, as I'm moving through my progression, my protocols, gather the facts. What is the problem? Actually, what are we actually solving for? And, a clarifying question when you're doing this is, okay, so you said this. Would you say that this is the problem we're dealing with? That's a great question to ask your wife, ask your kids, ask your team members, ask your boss. Assessing the risk, removing emotion from the decision, seeking wise counsel. And when you seek wise counsel, don't expect them to know your problem without you asking great questions. And then the last thing, and this is probably the most important thing for me, I like to come to God with options. I know I'm a little weird, right? But I like to come to God with options. I like to get to assess things and go, God, I've got all the earthly wisdom I can possibly get, and this is the decision I think is right. And I just offer it to him. If you want me to go in this direction, I'll happily do it. If you don't want me to do it, I won't do it. And that to me is I've talked to some people, and that's their first step in making the decision. I respect those people, but I also think that God wants us to wrestle with problems and come up with solutions and then present them to him. As a leader, it's one of the most gratifying things as a leader when one of your team comes to you and says, hey, we had this problem. We had option A, B, and C. I chose option C. This is what I think we should do. This is the steps we should take next. Man, when someone comes to me and goes, hey, I did the legwork. What do you think we should do? I'm more likely to pick their option or pick it and make some adjustments. I think that's how God operates too. I think he loves it when we do the legwork. I think he loves it when we delve into a problem and we go, all right, I want to gather the facts. I want to take my emotions out of it. I want to see what the problem really is. I want to assess the risk. I want to get wise counsel. And we present it to him and he goes, yeah, that sounds great. I would change this if that's okay with you. Or he just goes, no, don't do that. I've had him do that too. And then once we get the green light, and sometimes some of you are like, hey, I don't pray and I don't have a relationship with God like that. It's fine. I'm just sharing my protocols. Whatever you like to do, if you're a spiritual person, do what you do. But this is how I operate. And so I want to then, once I have a green light to move forward and I decide I'm going to go in this direction, then I want to create a strategy, a plan. Okay, I'm not just going to ho-hum run into this thing. All right, what's step 1? What's step 2? What's step 3? All right, here are the facts. Go right back to the protocol. Here are the facts. What would the problem be? What's my risk assessment? And I do that for every step as I'm building out the strategy. I hope this is helpful. We are faced with small decisions and big decisions all the time. Things that come up and we feel like they can be a bit overwhelming at times. If you have a protocol, a plan in place of this is how I make decision, I gather the facts, I find out what the true problem is, I isolate that problem, right? And then I remove the emotion out of it. I do a full risk assessment. Am I willing to do this even though I'm going to say no to all these things? I get wise counsel, right? And then I bring it to God and God says yes or no. And then I build a strategy for it. Like we get to these opportunities in these situations all the time. And if we have a protocol of steps of how we do it in the small decisions, you're going to fly through these protocols, boom, 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 and you're going to make quicker decisions. In the big ones, you're going to remove the anxiety, the fear, because you're going to look at the actual problem and you're going to be able to make this decision with clarity and confidence. And so, hey, if this podcast is adding value to you, we really would love it if you would share it with other people. I love doing this. Dan, in the beginning, he kind of forced my hand on this, but I've fallen in love with mentoring so many people online. It's been an absolute gift and a pleasure for me. I just love doing this. I love spending time with practicing and figuring out what would add value to your life. If this adds value to you, please comment, like, subscribe. In the comments, guys, I want to hear what we can do better. I don't want to be giving you guys something that is not valuable to you. If it's valuable to you, or give us constructive feedback. Hey, I didn't really like this, or you said this. Like, I didn't really appreciate that, and I don't really see the benefit in that. I want to hear it, because I can only get better with feedback. Like, that's how everybody gets better. With no feedback, no growth. And so give us the feedback. We want to get better. We want to grow. And remember, like, subscribe, share it with a friend. If you have a friend going through a hard thing and they need to make a decision, share this with them. I think it'll be really, really beneficial. Anyway, bless you guys. Have a great day.